and says it every morning, and I appreciate that because I've been giving out numbers to radio stations for years, and the text screen is great for a lot of folks who maybe are hesitant to jump on the phone. I hope that you find that when I talk to listeners, I give you space to air your thoughts, share your opinions, and this is a conversation for everyone. And coming up after 5:30, we're going to check in with our car guy. Tom Appel will be here from Consumer Guide, and we'll talk to him about green cars. Today, I believe Governor Pritzker, I don't know if it was today or this week, wants to make Illinois a hub for electric cars. So we'll talk about that, and I do have to ask him about frunks, and that's not a dirty word. Just want you to know that, Zach, it's not a dirty word. Don't hit the dump button on frunks. And some of you probably know what that is because you listen to Tom on Sundays, as I do, for all the car stuff. So I'm in a good mood. One, because it's gorgeous out. I went for a little bit of a walk today, and my mother had to go to some of her specialists downtown at Northwestern Hospital. She's doing well, just want to keep on top of things, and she's 86, and part of that is getting regular checkups, folks. Part of getting to that age and staying healthy and engaged is making sure that everything is operating to the best of your ability. So she was down at Northwestern, and I went for a walk, and I was going to go to a restaurant new to me. I like finding new places. It was a Japanese restaurant. I did the little restaurants near me on Google Maps. And as I was walking to this restaurant, there was a guy on the corner wearing a hula skirt and a Hawaiian shirt, and he had a mask on, and he was dancing and encouraging people to go into this restaurant that wasn't necessarily marked. It had frosted windows, and I was like, "What? I gotta know what's going on." And it was Ed DeBevick's. The new Ed DeBevick's is open on St. Clair, and it's right by Northwestern Hospital. I went in there, and I just felt like a kid again because I'd been going to the one that was over on Ohio since I was, I don't know, is it Ohio or was it Ontario? It was over by there. It was Ontario, wasn't it? Anyway, I've been going there since I was in high school, and it was so much fun to go in there. There are a lot of young people that are excited to be working there. It was their first day opening. It's a soft opening, so I don't know if I even should be telling you this. They didn't say don't say it on the air, but of course, I didn't tell them I work for WCPT, but it was really fun to be in a booth, hearing all the retro music, and of course, if you've never been to Ed DeBevick's, the crew, they entertain in sort of this irreverent way. They'll sit at your booth and kind of tease you a little bit. Like I ordered a salad, and they teased me for not getting a burger and fries, but I hadn't intended to go to Ed DeBevick's, so I couldn't change my plans to try to eat as healthily as I could. But anyway, that's their soft opening at the Ed DeBevick's downtown. You're not hearing too much about it because they're working out all the kinks, and I did not realize that is now the only Ed DeBevick's in existence. All the other Ed DeBevick's have closed. At least that's what the staff was telling me. And there was one woman who had on, it's all like very all character driven, and one of the women had Rosie the Riveter wardrobe on, and somebody else had sort of a hippies. He called me dudette, and it was just that kind of silly stuff. So I think that's part of why I'm in a good mood. Just kind of a lovely afternoon, and I was working while I was having lunch, and then I've been trying to catch up on some of the news today. I want to say that I think that United Airlines and other businesses that are making the choice to make vaccination a requirement, we're starting to see the results of that. There were about 600 employees who have refused to be vaccinated, and United Airlines has made the announcement that they will be terminated. I believe they have said, let me see what the date on here is, but it's going to be soon. United Airlines prepares to fire employees who refuse the COVID-19 vaccinations, but they have had so many people applying for the jobs. I think some people are going to change their minds on whether or not they're willing to lose their jobs over that. There are several firemen in the state of Illinois who are also suing to avoid having the vaccinations. And there was a big story out of Massachusetts where they were talking about how all these folks in law enforcement would resign or would rather be fired than have to get a vaccination. And so far, only one person has. And it is that moment of, should we be it's the carrot and the stick. And I guess for some folks, this feels like a stick, only you have the carrot. You have a solid job that pays well with strong benefits, and now the requirements of that include being vaccinated. Many people in law enforcement are required to be vaccinated with a tetanus shot in the event that they have an open wound, to make sure that they do not get a severe infection. And so this is similar. If you have people that you're helping, make sure that you are safe from them, but also more as important is that they are safe from you. And what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that having the requirements for whether it's travel or law enforcement, school, healthcare, I still cannot believe how many in-home caregivers are not vaccinated. I know our listener Denise is probably waiting to hear from me. I'm trying to find some answers if you're listening, Denise, because Catholic Charities that provides a lot of in-home care is not requiring their employees to be vaccinated. And that has to be terrifying. That doesn't have to be. It is terrifying to so many people who require in-home care with someone who has to physically help them. And with that close proximity, if all you're thinking is, are they bringing COVID into my home? That is not a safe nor healthy situation to be in. So give us a call at 773-763-9278 if you have any thoughts about any of the issues that are going on in the news. You might have seen that President Biden, was scheduled to be in Chicago today, and he canceled his trip to make sure that he can get these votes on the infrastructure bill. And I'm learning a little bit more about some of these smaller items that are on the infrastructure bill. And one of them, I don't know where it is. Obviously, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of pages involved in this. But I read that there's also $5 million that's supposed to be allocated toward water safety instruction for the CDC. That's something that has not necessarily been focused on by really local governments and the federal government in the way that it really should be. It is the number one cause of death for children under 4, barring other health issues that something a child is born with. And for kids, it's the second, up to the age of 14, it is the second leading cause of death is drowning. And we do not teach water safety at the level that we should be. A lot of people remember. Do you guys remember? Zach, did you ever get taught stop, drop, and roll? Yeah, you know what? Stop, drop, and roll. You all know what stop, drop, and roll is because you had an assembly about it in grade school. And the CDC is saying that they would like to be able to have more programs across the country. And I get it. Not everyone has access to pools and to have swimming classes, but we should be encouraging families and everyone really to have some level of water safety awareness. We know in Chicago we've had some tragedies in the last few months, including a young man who drowned right off of one of the piers on the north side. And everyone's calling for these buoys and life rings. The thing about those, really, I get both sides of the argument, and obviously I think that it's better to have something there than not. Out the door, that's absolutely true. I also think that people need to be aware when they're at the water. Like if you had that, like when you see a fire, you still think stop, drop, and roll. As a lifeguard, I was a lifeguard at North Avenue Beach and then at pools in Chicago and in Champaign. When we're trained, we are taught reach, throw, row, go. And that's for a professional rescuer. But we need something so that people know if they do need to reach for someone in the water, how to do that safely. If you do throw something, how do you make sure that both of you are safe? And we also need to educate young people the differences of being in a boat. You have that false sense of security, especially if you're in a rowboat or a kayak or canoe on a water area that there are also bigger boats. Because while you may think, I'm fine, I'm in this boat, anything can happen, weather can change, and you are in the water, in water that is deep and dangerous. A lot of people don't understand what a current is or how to react if you find yourself in an undertow. And so I thought it was fascinating that the CDC has they're setting aside about $5 million, which doesn't sound like enough, but at least there's something being done in a way that has not been approached in the past. And I'm trying to read some of the text. Wow, there's some really long texts. I know some of these are probably coming in from the conversation with Paul Vallis that Joan was having. That's often the case where I come in and all the texts are still in conversation too. Oh, Ontario and Wells. Thank you very much. That's where the Ed DeBevics used to be. It is now on St. Clair. and I can't remember the other street. Was it Ontario? Now it might still, but it's on St. Clair, right by Northwestern Hospital. So anyway, some interesting things to think about as far as our infrastructure package that they are trying to get passed. And again, President Biden canceled his trip to Chicago to fight off a closure of the government. And we have these conversations all the time when it comes to these arguments over the budget and our spending and a government shutdown. It always seems like a threat, but remember, we have had government shutdowns before. My mother was a computer programmer with the federal government and, in fact, worked on Y2K during a government shutdown when Bob Dole, President Clinton, they all had a standoff, and she was considered an essential worker because she was working on Y2K. Remember, in 1999, we were all concerned that the computers would not recognize the new numbers, because it's all zeros and ones when it comes to COBOL programming. And one of the remarkable things, in addition to the fact that my mom was involved in all that, is those programmers are now still needed because every government agency, after the chaos and the fear of Y2K, they thought they were going to upgrade all their systems. And guess what? We found out during the pandemic, that's another thing we discovered. One of our vulnerabilities is that they had not upgraded their programs. One of the reasons why we had so many problems with our unemployment claims and with so many different aspects of trying to process all the just millions of transactions that needed to happen during the pandemic. But at any rate, that is why President Biden has canceled his trip, is to avoid a government shutdown, as we have a couple times, including in 1999 in the run-up to the Y2K. I'm sure we all have stories of that, and I'm still eating some of the canned green beans from my pantry. Let's take a break here, and we will talk to Judy from Niles when we come back. She's on the line. And coming up after 5:30, we've got Tom Appel, our car guy. So if you have any questions, have them ready and call in. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget, we're on our live stream on the WCPT 820 Facebook page as well as YouTube.
It's official. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath is on WCPT 820.
The reality is right in our face, and we have work to do, and people know it.
The former Lincoln Park alderman and former CEO of the Sun-Times, Edwin Eisendrath,
It's familiar to many of you.
will give his unique spin on the political climate every Saturday afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m.
You won't want to miss that, and I'm going to want to hear from you.
The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath.
Look, this country has Democrats, and it has Republicans, and it has mayors.
Only on WCPT 820.
If you're looking to refinance your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Billy, married, 2 kids, living in an $800,000 home, called to do a cash-out refinance to pay off credit card debt he accumulated after losing his job. Team Hochberg helped Billy eliminate over 50 G's of credit card debt and reduced his payments over $2,000 a month. Let's review. Before calling Team Hochberg, Billy was loaded with debt and struggled to make his monthly payments on time. After calling, Billy paid off all his credit cards, reduced his monthly payments over 2 G's a month, and eliminated an incredible amount of stress in his life. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of radio listeners pay off debt and substantially reduce their monthly payments, like we helped Billy, but we can't help if you don't call 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Homeside Financial Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 112461.
Hey Chicago, it's Tom Hartman here. Who doesn't love a great roof? I know my friends at Roofers and Waterproofers Local 11 sure do, and I'm proud to introduce them as the local sponsor of the Tom Hartman program in Chicago. I can't imagine anything more important to any building than a roof, and union-built roofs are built to last. Listen to my show weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, sponsored by Roofers Local 11.
Some got busy, some got lazy, some got creative, some went crazy. Couch potatoes, avoiding respirators, we all got pretty big round the equator. Shopping online, working online, zooming all day, no pants, that's fine. Hiding at home from civilization, here's what I did over my pandemic vacation. In
chronological
That's our friend Steve Goody's Pandemic Vacation. You can find that album at stevegoody.com. And I actually had another Zoom meeting this morning, and I've gotten much better at tightening those up. Get in and get out, and no one gets hurt. So that was it was a great meeting this morning, actually. And we're having a wonderful conversation. Judy, one of my favorite, and by the way, I don't want to have favorites, but I do, because Judy and I have known each other for years. Hi, Judy. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Always great to hear your voice.
Lovely day. We got our shots today too. Booster shots.
Your booster shots?
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding! Congratulations.
Yeah, well, anyway, I wanted to remind you that Ed DeBevic's, the ordinary restaurant, would say we have fresh food and fast service. Ed DeBevic said we have fast food and fresh service. That was the reason for the rude,
yes.
You're going to order a hamburger? Who says?
Yep. I actually had the tuna salad and a side salad, and it was quite good. I like a good tuna salad. And honestly, Judy, I think these folks are excited to be there. You can tell they got that performance element to it. I was not there for them to jump up on the counter and do YMCA, but I plan to go back.
Yeah, that would be... I'd love to see that.
Exactly. It's good stuff. And by the way, Judy, I've got to make my way out to Niles. I feel like I'm just starting to get out more. And what are some of the places that when the pandemic was at its height that you couldn't go to that you missed in Niles?
I don't think there were any that we couldn't order food from.
Right.
We ordered food from Cappy's, and he is now our mayor, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah. And, of course, I'm right down the street from Boobies.
That's a great choice. It's Boobies on Milwaukee Avenue, yeah. And Cappy's is over by the, kind of like by the...
Dempster and Harlan.
Right, Dempster, right. And it's by that, I know that because I go to that TJ Maxx. So I do a double hit.
I do, too.
And the Home Goods.
That is so tempting when that TJ Maxx is so close to me.
Exactly. I believe it. Well, thank you so much for calling, Judy. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Take care. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. And on our other line, we've got Brian, who's called in. Hey, Brian, how are you doing today?
Oh, fine, thank you. How are you, Patty?
I'm very well. I'm in a great mood.
Well, I'm glad you are. I used to teach philosophy, and the most evil philosopher that I could come up with was Herbert Spencer, who came up with the idea of social Darwinism, and he believed, not metaphorically, literally, that all poor people should be killed, and that was picked up by the libertarians. And Ronald Reagan, when he was running for president, was more or less adopting that position, the libertarian position. But anyway, then it started trickle-down economics. And then today we have the situation's coming up very rapidly. Joe Biden's human infrastructure, $3.5 trillion, and in that he wants to create millions and millions of jobs. He wants to address global warming. He wants to address some things about health care and child care, and he wants to reverse trickle-down economics. And I believe that I'm really hoping he gets this through for a lot of reasons. One of them is it will reduce the poverty rate in the country and overall reduce the level of violence in the country.
And I think that, while it's a heavy lift and we've got to do a lot of convincing of folks, I agree with you. I really hope he gets this done. I know that some of the sort of counter offers that are being sent back to the Dems, it's being considered a half measure. So they want to be able to, do the Build Back Better Act to deliver resources, and because our communities really do need them.
Well, I think that if he doesn't get it through, then the likelihood is probably virtually nothing's going to get done, because pretty rapidly people in the House and the Senate and you can forget about those right-wing extremists in the Senate. But essentially, about getting anything done along these lines, Joe Biden, and he gets to the midterms, and you see how at least 18 states have put together at least, about 20, 25 new voting restriction measures, and then if at the midterms that swings to the Republicans in the House and the Senate, virtually Joe Biden's going to be a lame duck.
Yeah, indeed.
And so the next couple days are vitally important if we want to see some wonderful things happening for the United States.
Here's hoping. I know that my son will be having a C-SPAN on quite a bit. He's always watching whether it's hearings or committee meetings and things like that. So I'll be interested to see what kind of action there is in D.C. And it just, I think, don't you feel, Brian, that it just seems like background noise, and I can't really. Obviously, we see a lot of folks on the left and the right tweeting out things, and obviously you'll see a lot of Republicans mocking it, and Dems saying, "Look, it's now or never," kind of a situation. Is that your feel of things?
Well, it is, because, I mean, you go back the last 40 years, it's been trickle-down economics.
Yep.
Tax breaks for the wealthiest in the country, more and more loss of jobs, and more poverty, and that it certainly doesn't justify violent crime, but I mean, the object is to reduce violent crime, and the more hope there is, more jobs, less despair, more likely to have less violent crime.
Yep, it's instead of trickle down, it's been more like drop crumbs economics. That's all we get.
Yeah, well, Joe Biden is the first one in 40 years that wants to reverse trickle-down economics and get the wealthiest, about 600 billionaires who pay hardly nothing, if anything, in taxes.
Yep.
And Joe Biden is finally trying to get, he's talking about, to pay for it, get those who are making over $400,000 a year, and he mentioned 55 corporations that pay zero in income taxes. We'll finally get them to pay their fair share and, behave like American patriots.
Yep, I agree. It's for the better good. Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Patty. Have a great day.
You as well. I also want to get to a text. I got a few texts coming in. The Republicans, by not passing the debt ceiling increase or paying off our debts, are shooting themselves in the foot. The reason is very simple to understand. Most of the federal money that comes out of the federal government goes to Republican-led states. They will suffer the most if the debt ceiling is not increased or the debt is not paid in blue states. That effect will be minimal. That's because in the blue states, they have extra money. Blue states are self-sufficient. Very little of their income comes from the federal funding. In fact, it is blue states that support the red states with money that they need to keep open and help the people in their red states. We've talked about that before, that Illinois is a donor state, that for every dollar we pay into federal income taxes, we do not get that back. And that's actually true across the state of Illinois. There are parts of the state, a lot of rural areas will point to Chicago as being this sort of burden on the state, when in actuality, in Chicago, for every dollar we pay into our income taxes, we get maybe 80 cents, maybe a little bit right around there. There are other parts in the state where they're getting more, like a dollar, anywhere between $1.11 to $2, even higher. So there are that is an issue where they do not want the blue states to have more sway over how we fund all of this, how it's paid for, and where the money comes from. So I appreciate that point from our friend in the 541. Let me do one more before we go to the break. Ontario and Wells, thank you for that again. So I'm going to take a break here. When we come back, we've got Tom Appel here, and to his friend, we might be talking about cars from Y2K. I don't know. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll talk about our first cars, but we'll definitely be talking about electric cars and frunks. It's not a bad word. Just want everyone to know that. More after this on WCPT 820. We're driving it home.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Lower your energy bills and reduce your carbon footprint with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
Downtown in Chicago's River West neighborhood, we're getting reports of multiple people shot on Milwaukee between Kinsey and Grand. Milwaukee Avenue is closed, northbound Jefferson shut between Washington and Lake, westbound Randolph shut down, and that's between Canal and Clinton. West on the I-90, it's a parking lot from Tyrrell on over to US 20 in Hampshire, with a rolled over semi-crash blocking 2 left lanes. Eden's in from Lake Cook Road 40 minutes, Kennedy outbound 24 to the Split, ditto in the Express, 50 out to O'Hare. Inbound from O'Hare, 55 minutes, 21 of that on in from the Junction. Ike outbound, 57 minutes from the Circle to 390. Inbound at 17th Avenue, a crash from 390 back into the Circle, an hour and 8. That's traffic. I'm Mary DeBadges.
Your life, your hopes, and whatever you were searching for at 1:15 a.m., it's really none of our business, and it shouldn't be anyone else's. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
This is the sound of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, saving you money and energy while helping you lower your carbon footprint. With discounts on Energy Star certified LED bulbs, so you can come back to a home full of savings. Learn more at ComEd.com/lighting. ComEd, powering lives.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
My friend Marty, he wants to split the party. He wants blue folks in red states to vote green. I can see his point, though I really gotta say, no, we can't have another 2016. It seems nothing beats orange, nothing even freaking rhymes with it. What's a battered nation supposed to do? His Royal Orange Highness, he does love to divide us. We gotta stick together and vote blue. When I recycle, I'm green, green as green can be. I do my level best, yes, it's true. But when I'm voting in November, I promise to remember it's us against him, gotta vote blue. Don't think I'm a hater, I love Ralph Nader. I don't blame him for the mess in Y2K. With those who represent us, I'm playing the percentages, voting blue down the ticket all the way.
Look at that. Got a little tie-in there with Y2K. Tom Appel joins us in the studio. The car stuff. It's the car stuff on Sundays?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me make sure I got the right mic. Hold on. This one. Let's try that one. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah. You got such a great voice that I've been hearing for years. First on Steve and Johnny.
Yeah.
Overnights, and then overnights with Nick DiGilio.
I was the night guy.
You were the night guy. Now you do so much. How much fun is it to just try cars?
It is fun. There is actual work that's done behind the scenes, but yes, the driving the car thing is fun.
Yes. When did you start? When did you know this was what you wanted to do with your time?
I didn't know. I mean, I always loved cars, always worked with cars, but it was about 21 years ago, I realized that Consumer Guide, which used to publish a print publication, was located in Evanston.
Oh.
Actually, what town is that? But over there on Cicero. And I just shot him a resume blind. And a week later, I was being backgrounded. So there you have it.
But so you realized that they were in town, but you already had to have a background in cars.
Yeah.
And what kind of background was that?
Well, I sold cars. I worked on cars. I worked in fleet leasing. Also, I just loved cars. So I was always reading about cars.
Yeah.
So it sort of came natural.
Was your dad one of those hood open, or anybody in your family hood open, cigarette over the engine?
No cigarette, but my dad would die before he paid a mechanic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can see that. I still like the smell of gas and oil because my dad would always. Did you grow up like it just kind of, it gives you that sensory sense memory?
I worked at a service station in high school and into college, and that's the greatest smell in the world.
There are people, obviously it's unique. They're not everybody, but for those of us who like the smell of gas, it's a weird, not that kind of gas. You know what I mean? but yeah. So you know what? Let's start with this though, because your friend was teasing and saying, "Are we going to talk about cars from Y2K?" We'll go before that. What was your first real, like the car that you first had as yours to drive around?
The first car that I spent real money on was a 1985 Volkswagen Scirocco.
Scirocco?
Yeah, and I never stopped talking about that car. If you know me, you're tired of hearing about that car.
I do know you, and I'm trying to remember hearing about it because I had an 84 Volkswagen Golf, the Rabbit, actually. It was a Rabbit, the two-door.
Great car.
It was amazing, but really expensive to fix, so I didn't have your skill of being able to fix my own car.
I was lucky. I didn't have to fix too much on that car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember the first thing that went was, the clutch, because I did not. I did not learn properly. It went out somewhere in Bourbonnais. I was in Champaign, and we were without a clutch all the way to my house. And you really should just pull over and stop the car.
You could kind of make it work if you know what you're doing as it slowly fades.
Yeah, I somehow made that work. So the Scirocco by Volkswagen.
Scirocco.
Scirocco.
Yep.
I had a friend who had the thing.
Those were cool.
Those were so cool.
Those are really collectible now.
I know, and they still have theirs. That's wild to me. With folks who preserve cars like that, what's been one that surprised you the most of what people want to preserve, or what classic car, or not even classic, because that's like almost a cult thing.
There is a weird phenomena now. The Toyota Land Cruiser, which became a very large, expensive thing over time. But earlier versions of that were a little bit tidier overall in terms of size and incredibly good off-road. And there is a cult following that is driving up the prices of these things. One I saw go up at auction like last week, sold for $70,000. It was 20 years old. It's crazy.
That is insane for a Land Rover.
But they're deadbolt reliable, and they're really good off-road, and people love them.
Yeah. So I know that there's so many different cars that you test drive, and obviously in your role with Consumer Guide Automotive, you can't say like necessarily like all your. I mean, do you dive into like your absolute? I know that you have favorites.
Sure.
But there are cars that I love the way they look, and when I ride in them, they're fun. But they seem less reliable for folks. Like let's say like Jeeps seem to be iffy sometimes.
Jeep has a reliability problem.
Do they? Okay, I'm not crazy about that.
No. It's a documented reliability problem.
Yeah, but they look so cool, Tom.
People love them.
Yes.
The Jeep Wrangler is Jeep's best-selling product.
Yeah.
Or second best right now, I think. But it's incredibly expensive to buy. It's not the world's most practical vehicle, and people just want them.
Yes. I mean, why can't they bridge that gap of having a badass car and having them more reliable? What's the whole... I mean, it's not your job to solve that. But come on. Come on. Jeep?
Yeah, and I do want to make a point. Nothing is really unreliable these days.
Okay.
Jeeps are just less reliable
than others, right?
Yeah.
I love I bought a used RAV, and I know we're going to talk about electric cars. I have a hybrid, and I know, and I bought it like just before this the chain of supply issue really started to grow with chips. Is this a thing that's happening? I know they were making offers for used cars and trying to get some of those back.
It's crazy.
Isn't okay?
Yeah, the market's crazy right now.
Yeah, I probably paid a little bit more than I would have wanted to, but I love the color of my car. I have a car. My other favorite car guy is my guy Warren from European and U.S. Auto Body, and he gets mad at me when I don't want. Like I have a silver Prius too. I have both my cars used, and I was like, oh, does it have to be silver? But it makes a difference when you walk out of your house and you've put money into it, and if something makes you happy, you'll spend a little bit more.
Sure.
If you can.
You should, too, if you have to live with it for 4, 5, 6 years.
Tom, I lived with a Honda Odyssey minivan for 14 years. I hated that color. It was the seafoam green. It was, I hated that color. Hey, it's wimpy. Do you know what I mean? What color is your car?
I don't have a car. My wife's car is charcoal, so it's kind of on the dull list. But it's a good charcoal.
It's a good charcoal. It's a power. Charcoal. It's a strong.
It's metallic. It's got some depth to it.
Ours is okay. So ours, I can't remember it's like metallic aqua, something like moon something. But it in some light it looks green, and some light it looks blue, and sometimes it looks black. It's amazing. Anyway, that's just my car. So we want to talk about. I don't know if you saw this. The Governor Pritzker has talked about wanting to make Illinois a hub for electronic cars. Electronic cars are still unreachable for most people financially, aren't they?
Yeah, that is changing as we speak, like right now.
Oh, sheesh. I wasn't even paying attention to the news.
But electric cars are becoming available right now that are affordable.
Okay.
The Mustang Mach-E, the Ford Mustang Mach-E just came online. The Volkswagen ID.4 is a very mainstream electric vehicle that Volkswagen just launched. They're not affordable, but they start around $40,000. It's not like the first Teslas that came out that were over $100,000.
Right.
Yeah, so they're getting there.
Okay. So I rode in my first Tesla that was a Lyft in New York.
Oh.
So cool, Tom. I mean, like, just the way all the interior, there's so much leg room because presumably they move the driver and passenger seat up because they don't need as much in the front, or why is that?
Well, there's a lot of space in general because you don't have a drive shaft going between the car or an exhaust. You don't have to accommodate an exhaust pipe. So that makes a little bit of space.
Right.
So you can lower that center hub, that center hump that's in most cars. Not there. Initially, it's a fairly flat floor. The battery just fits a giant rectangle that fits underneath the car. So the car just sort of fits over that. And so the dimensions are a little bit cubic, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, they are a little bit roomier than you would think they'd be.
It was astonishing. And the door handle, like it's flush to the body.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are luxury cars. I just don't touch many of them. I'm guessing you get what has dazzled you recently? Like, what has really blown your socks off? Or are you like that sort of, I got to come in here, I got to have, I got to be critical of everything. I can't be blown away by something.
I'm pretty cynical about stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've
grown cynical about things like BMW because they're very expensive for what they are. Mm-hmm. They're good, but we just drove a BMW 430i. I think it was, which is a small coupe, in Isle of Man green. This is the best color I've seen.
Isle of Man. I'm going to look at my RAV and see what you think of my RAV.
Yeah, it's an incredibly rich green color, and I'm surprised to see it on a car. It almost looks like a toy. Cool as heck. Loved it.
That sounds very cool. I was out in San Francisco, and they asked me if I wanted a Dodge Charger. And I said, yes. Why would I? When you drive a car like that, it sounds angry at you when you're not going fast. It's like growls. Yeah, it's so much fun to drive.
Yeah, the Charger's kind of an anachronism, but they're still out there. They still sell reasonably well.
Yeah.
Most of these sell just because of the association with old school muscle cars.
Yeah. Well, the show Supernatural probably helped. There's so many shows that have cars like that in them as a character almost, Yeah,
Breaking Bad made the Pontiac Aztek a terrible vehicle collectible.
The strangest thing. I'm fascinated by that. But talking about the electric cars, and you mentioned the battery of the Tesla, and obviously I have a battery in my Prius and in a different type that switches over. People have talked about, like, whenever people want to poo-poo, and that's what they do. They go poo-poo
yes,
on these environmentally, what's considered to be better for the environment, cars and lowering emissions. They talk about, well, these batteries aren't great because they end up in landfills and things like that. What have you read about that situation?
That hasn't happened yet because there haven't been that many electric cars. So that's one possible route that things could take, and that would be tragic. But there's already a growing movement to develop uses for what they call second-use batteries.
Really?
And one of them, and this is an Elon Musk Tesla thing, is to use second-use batteries for stationary batteries to put underneath windmills, for example, to store that energy before it hits the grid. And you would need a lot of them. But the nice thing about a battery that's no longer good for a car, say it's at 50% capacity, it's going to be good as a stationary battery for a very long time. They degrade very slowly at some point. So you can stack these up if you have the space and use 10, 100, 1,000 of these to store significant amounts of energy for a long time. So that's a secondary use. And obviously what you want to do after that is recycle.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Asked and answered for the people who are like, oh, they're just going to end up in landfills. First of all, it takes a long time to not need the battery of your car. I mean, my Prius is at 170,000 miles, and it runs great. I love that car. I have a 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second gen. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fun to drive. Both of them are fun to drive. You've got to feel good about your car.
It's a shame about the Prius, but its time has passed. It doesn't sell well anymore, but it did really, it was proof of concept for hybrid, and I think it kind of changed the industry.
Oh,
really
absolutely.
Important car.
Well, and I remember the reason we bought we waited for as long as we could. I have a son who's severely disabled, so we knew we were going to need a minivan depending on what that was going to be. We don't need like a ramp for a wheelchair to stay in position. Like ours is collapsible, so we needed the storage in the back. And it was 2005, and we wanted to wait, or 2006. We were hoping that it seemed as though there was a push to go towards hybrids, but there's really only the Chrysler Pacifica. There's the Odyssey or the Toyota.
No, the Toyota Sienna.
It has gone?
Is now hybrid.
Okay,
It's
finally.
hybrid only. That's all you can get.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because those things are like 12 miles to the gallon. I was really happy to let that car go, the Odyssey. It was great. It's a great car. It's just really ugly. Let's take a break here, and I want to find out about AM on our cars. Are we going to have AM anymore? Because what happens to me? What happens to us? Well, let's find out when we come back with Tom Appel. If you have any questions, give us a call or text us at 773-763-WCPT. That's 773-763-9278. Oh, I should probably definitely check in on our Facebook page. There's so many things to look at in here, Tom. I got to make sure that I'm keeping up with that conversation, too. More in a moment on Driving at Home with Patti Vasquez. And Tom's hanging out.
Mind Over Matters.
Dr. Amy Harris. Nuan, as you know, this show is about challenging you to think differently, to make different choices in your life, to take action,
AM radio probably feel it, but we talk about the
positive
chip shortage
outcomes in
too,
your
because it
life.
is a
So
nightmare
I
to
want
buy
to
a car
challenge
right
you to look
The
at
whole
your
market
life
has collapsed.
holistically, to where am I
No worries.
satisfied, what areas
The lack of
need
new cars means there's a
attention,
lack
and
of
then
used cars,
go to work,
basically.
take in action what you need to do.
Mind Over Matters with Dr. Amy Harris Nuan. Sundays at 10 a.m. on WCPT 820.
O'Reilly. When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. When Serena Williams won her title at the Tennis Grand Slam tournament, we know she gets the same prize money as her male counterpart. However, prior to 1973, that wasn't always the case. When Billie Jean King captured her first Wimbledon title in 1966, she was surprised to find out that the winner of the men's tournament received £2,000, while she only received £750. After being unable to find any tournaments for women, King and 8 other women formed their own tournament, the Virginia Slims Invitational, where each woman was paid $1 before posing for the famous picture of them each holding up their dollar, with the caption, "Contract Pros." While the move was bold, the pay discrepancies continued. King threatened to boycott the 1973 U.S. Open unless the women were paid the same as the men. Thanks to a grant from Band Deodorant, both the men and women's singles would take home $25,000. Despite the progress at the U.S. Open, it wouldn't be until 1984 that the Australian Open would execute equal pay, followed by the French Open in 2006, and finally Wimbledon in 2007. This has been a WCPT moment in labor. We're fighting for your rights.
January 6, 2021, followers of Trump and something called QAnon attempted a coup at the United States Capitol. Who are these people? I want to live with the QAnon.
I'm gonna have to get some more songs from Tom Appel. I know I've got the Delta variant song in here somewhere. I'll have to find that one too. We've got in studio Tom Appel, in addition to being our favorite car guy here at WCPT, and Warren's gonna be really mad at me that I keep saying that, but you're our guy with all the information. You've been at this for 20 years in educating consumers when it comes to cars, what they're looking for. You tailor it to what people are looking for, and you make it so understandable and fun. So I love the work that you do.
Well, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
So score.
Well, plus you brought me Spunky Dunkers donuts, Dunk with the Best from this is on Northwest Highway in Palatine. They're open 24 hours. Why? Would you? This is amazing. Thank you. So excited. I know what I'm having for breakfast. Well, for dessert tonight, but I love coffee and a donut. Oh, you're making me hungry for coffee and donuts right now. Tom, we've got a listener.
Sounds good.
It does, doesn't it? We have a listener on the line who has a question for you. Hi, Hi, Barry. What's on your mind? Hey, Barry.
Yes, I was curious what his opinion was of the hybrid Kia Niro, and they have a full electric as well. I was considering, I have the hybrid version, and I was considering buying a full electric, but I drive a lot of miles in a day, and I was curious as to if recharging that battery on a daily basis would be harmful to the battery, or if it would be something that would be okay.
Yeah, the Kia Niro, for people who don't know, is a compact car that Kia developed specifically to be hybrid or plug-in hybrid or electric. Nice ride. I've driven the electric version, and I like it a lot. There's other electric cars out there that you should check out, too, though, because there's just more of them now, including the Hyundai Kona, if you can find a dealership that handles that. As for charging daily, if you charge level 2 at home, which is just plugging in at your house with a special charger, that's not going to hurt your battery at all.
Will I get a full charge?
Yes.
In an evening?
If you take a battery like the one that's in there, it's about 60 kilowatt hours, that would charge it about 10 hours at home.
In about 10 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I drive a couple hundred miles to work, back and forth to work, and I believe the range is like 294 miles or something like that for the full electric. And I thought, gosh, that would be almost dreaming it. And then, trying to get a full charge in it, I was kind of concerned about that.
I want to caution you, though, on something. If you're thinking about driving that in the Chicagoland area, that mileage is going to drop by a third when it gets cold.
Oh, good to know.
Oh,
because with the way the battery takes a charge in the cold.
Yeah, right now, this weather we're having right now, batteries love this weather.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But when it gets cold or hot, the range drops.
Okay, so extreme heat and extreme cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I drive from McChesney Park, Illinois, into Evanston on a daily basis. It's 87 miles, and that if it dropped that 100 miles, that would put me right at
cutting it close,
running empty. Yeah, cutting it real close. Okay, that's something to consider because our Midwestern weather goes up and down.
It's extreme, yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
weather is not a favorite of the battery.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Tom Skilling to tell us about that polar vortex and how it just slides down the side of the planet from the Arctic. Thank you so much for calling. Best of luck on your decision, okay, Barry?
Thank you.
Of course. Have a great day. I thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. It is something that people are interested in, especially as we see all this legislation for bringing down the emissions on cars and all these deadlines and things like that. You messaged me about AM radios and how are they not putting AM? Are they putting FM and not AM?
Yeah, what's happening is that German automakers, who are lazy about AM radio anyway, because in Western Europe they don't really use AM. Things are closer. They like the fidelity, so they're mostly FM.
Okay.
So the AM you get in German cars is often crummy anyway. And then Swedish cars, I should add. But what's happening is that the European automakers are using the electric vehicle as an excuse not to include AM radio because there's a certain amount of interference generated by the motor. Mm-hmm. It's real and it's messy. But American makers are figuring out how to deal with it. But you're not seeing AM radio in a number of BMW, Mercedes, Volvo, and now the new Volkswagen ID4.
You know what's interesting about that? There's so many lobbyists for so many different areas. You would think that there should be a broadcast lobbyist.
You would think so.
And that would be bipartisan. Actually, there are way more conservative radio stations than there are. We are the biggest progressive radio station in the country. And I'm surprised that there isn't a push that if your car is coming into the United States, it has to have AM radio. This is part of our culture. This is part of our media. Why aren't we protecting it?
I suppose because there's a great deal of future think here, and people want you to just download whatever you're listening to via an app, which you can do with WCPT.
Yes, everyone download that onto your apps. Get it on your phone, get it in your car, and make sure you're listening to WCPT. We've got Bernie. Bernie in Chicago has a question. Hey, Bernie, what's your question?
I'm seeing 1,000 ads on those repair services, insurance, that kind of, and I just can't believe that they're honest. You know what I'm talking like? Clear Shield or something that...
Yeah, I've seen those ads too. I've looked into those. I don't have a good answer for you right now, so I'm reluctant to say anything. I have my questions too. I just don't have anything verifiable yet.
I think that we're going to wait till it hits a fan. Thank you.
Well, I don't know what he means by that. I think he means poo-poo. We have on the line with us, Dave has a question. Hi, Dave. Thanks so much for calling. What's your question for Tom?
Yeah, have you ever heard of the company Lightyear?
Lightyear? I don't think so.
Oh.
It's they develop solar electric vehicles, and they've teamed up with the Finnish car maker Valme.
Oh.
And right now they've got prototypes in that right now, but they've had an impressive range of 450 miles on a single charge in the Lightyear 1. And
interesting.
They've gathered some early skepticism from the public as a startup with limited prototypes.
And you're saying this car is partially solar powered?
Yes, and it's, Lightyear 1 is delivered 441 miles of consistent range on a 60 kilowatt per hour battery pack, gathering about another 3.5 additional kilowatt hours from its solar panels.
Cool.
And, you know, that's going to be, they're looking at, you know, maybe 2022 or 2023 to be coming out, you know, more with it. But it's right now in the prototypes and that. But when you're talking about the charging, I've always understood too that with these electric vehicles, that a lot of them have to have a dedicated, like a 220 circuit, a dedicated one. And they said on some of these, like the Volt or whatever, with these ones that were having trouble burning, that people are charging them outside of their garages, you know?
Yeah, that's part of the current Chevy Bolt EV recall, which there is a fix for that now, and I guess the recall has begun. But yeah, that's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, and so we get to the other people. That fire they had in Rockton, wasn't that because of old spent lithium batteries?
In Rockton? I don't recall that.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Okay. That big fire they had earlier this summer that time in the town of Rockton. And I thought, you know, they had said something that one place had stored a lot of those old lithium batteries or whatever, and some of the water. That's why they had to use that certain special foam even to put it out, and that so it wouldn't go into that river, the Rock River or whatever. But anyway, well, let me clear off so you can get some other people to get through. But I just thought I'd tell you about that solar electric car and that stuff. All right, be well, guys.
Awesome. You too. Take care, Dave. And the other thing we talked about a little bit briefly was about the chips and the shortage of cars and how hard it is to get a vehicle right now. What should people know?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. The microchip shortage, and that this is COVID-induced, has meant that the auto industry is going to produce something like 15% fewer vehicles this year. So if you want to buy a new car, you're not going to get what you're looking for, probably. You're going to pay a lot more for it. There's no incentives right now. No dealers are dealing. You just kind of have to pay what they're asking for it. And you're not going to find, going back to color, probably the color you want. Because no new cars are being built, companies like Hertz and Avis can't buy replacements for rental cars, so there's nothing coming into the used car market.
Wow.
Plus, there's no trade-ins coming in. So used cars, as of, I think, today or yesterday, are up something like 15% over the same time last year.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah, I think mine was starting to climb. We had we basically had someone watching for what I wanted. I wanted somewhere between 2,000 before the RAV had the dash screen that was like too high. I wanted something that was a little more flush. I didn't want that sticking up. I get distracted too easily as it is.
That's old school. That's old school.
I like the full. Yeah, I'm like squirrel. So I and it took a little bit. And they called us and we came in. We test drove it, and I love my car. You gotta have a car that you love tooling around with if you can. It's not always possible, but there are so we didn't talk about this before we go. My first car was my first real car. The '84 Volkswagen was my second car.
Okay.
My first real car was a '76 Toyota Corolla, and it was orange. It was a wagon, and I love that car. One night coming home from my last job at a radio station, I saw one like downtown that had been restored. I have to find it for you. My favorite car. That was a great car.
Those were everywhere.
They were amazing.
In orange at the time.
It was. Everyone had that. We're out of time, and I've got to have you back. We have to do something like a Wheels Wednesday with Tom Appel.
Fun.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that. We've been driving it home with Tom Appel. How can folks find you online and all the work that you do? Consumerguide.com. Just go there. Everything is there. If you want to listen to the podcast, if you missed an episode, because you should listen on WCPT first, you can listen to back episodes there. And it's such a fun show. You guys have great chemistry. I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
I love listening.
It's fun.
Have a great evening, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow, and I hope. We're gonna find out about. We're gonna get an update from Timeless Toys about their toy drive for Afghan refugees, and on Friday we're gonna talk about the Appel, the big fall Apple event in Lincoln Square. Have a great night, everybody. everybody. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, everybody at WCPT. Rick Unger's up next. Yay.
This is Joan Esposito, and here at WCPT, we love pets. So much that we're spotlighting an adoptable, adorable dog or cat every month. So many deserving pets are waiting for their forever home. We've partnered with community shelters and our sponsors, Love for Dogs Pet Grooming and Mark Drugs, to talk about...
With each breath, allergens, germs, and viruses get trapped in your nose. Now there's a simple and effective way to clean your nose and protect your health. It's called Navage. Available at Navage.com.
AP News, I'm Jackie Quinn. Democratic leaders on Capitol Hill have found a way to head off the immediate crisis of a looming government shutdown. The fiscal year ends tomorrow. They're splitting apart the government funding bill, which the GOP is expected to support, from a proposal to raise the debt ceiling, which Republicans have promised they'll oppose. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Republicans' refusal to support a suspension of the debt limit now is cynical, hypocritical, and downright dangerous.
The government funding measure would keep operations intact until December 3rd, when another vote would be needed. Meanwhile, President Biden continues negotiations with Arizona's Kyrsten Sinema.